Buonasera a tutti, benvenuti. Io sono Ilaria Menolascina, curatrice di OGR Public Program, il progetto di formazione promosso dalla Fondazione Arte Moderna e Contemporanea CRT in collaborazione con le OGR. Questa sera ospitiamo la seconda Masterclass del ciclo SeeYouTalks, realizzato in collaborazione con Seeyousound. E di nuovo sul tema, sul legame, musica, video, e questa sera avremo anche la componente della ritualità, del nomadismo, e cercheremo di capire questo che cosa significa. Lo faremo insieme a un ospite speciale, Alessandro Battaglini di Seeyousound ci dirà qualcosa in più, che è un ospite speciale che è un vero nomade perché ha girato davvero tutto il mondo. Questa sera ci racconterà per fare cosa. E io ringrazio quindi Vincent Moon per essere con noi stasera. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you.
Grazie.
Ringrazio Alessandro Battaglini per questa bella avventura che stiamo vivendo insieme. In autunno avremo l'ultimo capitolo di questa rassegna, ve ne parleremo poi più avanti. E niente, lascio la parola ad Alessandro, buon proseguimento, buona serata e grazie per essere qui.
Grazie mille.
Quindi ricambio chiaramente ringraziamenti a Ilaria innanzitutto per questa possibilità molto importante che ha dato al nostro festival di anche un attimino uscire dalla sala cinematografica e cercare di spiegare un po' qual è la nostra ricerca. Il progetto SeeYouTalks è nato diciamo seguendo diverse forme, insomma, cercando di spiegare il rapporto fra video e musica in maniere differenti, un po' cercando anche un po' di far capire l'anima eterogenea che compone questo festival, il nostro festival. Il primo incontro è stato appunto con un collettivo molto importante a livello internazionale, che erano i Canada, che hanno fatto questa masterclass sul videoclip musicale, proprio per far capire anche l'interesse che noi come festival abbiamo verso questo tipo di formato, il mercato che secondo noi potrebbe anche aprire con un po' più di attenzione anche in Italia, che in questo momento anche un attimino ha bisogno di un po' più di idee e di innovazione. Questo invece è un altro tipo di incontro, un altro tipo di ricerca, è un incontro a cui io personalmente tenevo molto e che ha avuto anche delle difficoltà, perché insomma, come poi vedrete dalla conversazione che avremo fra poco, Vincent difficilmente lo abbiamo trovato in questi mesi nello stesso posto per più di 2 settimane di fila, quindi le nostre comunicazioni venivano soprattutto a vocali di WhatsApp, ma sono stati, devo dire, anche è stato anche molto interessante il modo in cui ci siamo cercati e trovati in tutti questi mesi. C'è stata da parte di entrambi la volontà di fare questo incontro e sono molto contento di tutto ciò. Noi come Seeyousound avevamo conosciuto l'attività di Vincent 2 anni fa. Fu la vice direttrice del mio festival, Juanita Prez Murillo, che mi fece conoscere la sua opera, i suoi lavori e insomma anche il focus della sua ricerca. Insomma, tutti quanti siamo divenuti fin da subito dei suoi grandi fan, fino a che poi appunto si è presentata l'occasione quest'anno di presentare il suo ultimo progetto Hybridos nell'ultima edizione del nostro festival, che ha partecipato alla nostra competizione internazionale documentari vincendo anche la menzione speciale, e capivamo che però Hybridos non era Hybridos, come tanti dei suoi lavori, non sono dei progetti che si fermano alla visione cinematografica, alla visione nelle sale. Sono dei progetti più a tutto tondo che riguardano un concetto di rapporto tra musica e spiritualità, di rapporto tra musica e rituale molto vasto e che poi si possono espletare in numerose altre cose. Quindi Hybridos non è solo un lungometraggio, ma è anche una installazione, una performance live, un'installazione artistica, 34 cortometraggi, quindi è un progetto veramente a tutto tondo che rappresenta una ricerca di 4 anni e mezzo che Vincent ha fatto per tutti gli angoli del Brasile, cercando di conoscere il più possibile a fondo, fino proprio ai meandri della cultura, questo paese meraviglioso. E Hybridos è però Hybridos è l'ultima tappa del percorso, cioè la carriera di Vincent è passata da tutt'altro, insomma, partita all'incirca 18 anni fa, facendo tutt'altro, ed è stato un lento percorso di avvicinamento che cercheremo questa sera insomma un attimino di ritracciare, di cercare di approfondire poi vari punti vari punti nodali insomma di questo percorso, che hanno creato poi le svolte che hanno portato poi Vincent a lavorare su quello che sta lavorando tuttora. Con questa cosa, insomma, questa è l'introduzione di partenza di questa che sarà una conferenza che lui ha voluto che io moderassi, devo dire la verità che non me l'aspettavo neanche, quindi chiedo innanzitutto metto le mani avanti sperando di essere all'altezza di poterlo fare, e che avverrà in inglese, quindi questo sarà il momento in cui smetto poi di parlare italiano e cominceremo insomma la vera e propria conversazione. Ieri io e lui abbiamo parlato molto di questo incontro, di come avverrà e di quali argomenti poi andremo a toccare. La cosa che ci teniamo a dire fin da subito è che, almeno nella nostra idea, ma anche e soprattutto nella sua testa, era l'idea di un incontro molto interattivo, di un incontro dove le domande e le curiosità, piuttosto che anche gli interventi che volete fare, non sono poi circoscritti in un momento finale, ma sono anche tutti durante l'incontro. Quindi in qualsiasi momento che ne sentiate bisogno, che avete magari capito un punto, che volete fare una domanda in più, sentitevi assolutamente liberi di alzare la mano e si vuole fare in modo che questa sia il più possibile una conversazione allargata, una conversazione amabile, insomma, su più argomenti. So, that's the moment I'm switching in English. And so, Vincent.
Grazie mille, mon ami. I'm so happy to be here. It's really cool. It's my first time in Turin, you know. It's like, whoa, you are like propelled into this like incredible city and all its history. And I was walking around with my friends today, and we're like talking, going crazy about so many different layers. And at night I have to talk for 2 hours with you. It's incredible. I mean, so happy, especially in such a grandiose space. So thank you again, Alessandro, for bringing me here. Really, pleasure.
You're welcome. So I wanted to start with a very simple question that is actually what it makes the first connection between what you're doing and our festival, no? So the main topic of our festival is a music film festival. So it's a festival that tries to put together the relationship between music and video. So the way, you know, cinema and generally the various forms of cinema are creating a connection with music. And your life and generally is completely, you know, fulfilled by music in all the possible means. So I start with a very simple question. You know, I wanted to start with what is for you music?
This is cool. Because actually 2 minutes ago, when he was just saying, okay, so I'm going to start with the first question. And he was like, so the first question is, I was like, no. Don't tell me the question. It's much better when I don't know. And so I guess the talk we're going to have today is a bit maybe around that, actually, around improvisation, which is very important to me. Can you hear me okay, first thing? Yeah. So yes, I'm speaking English right now to you with a very strong French accent. So I hope you can still manage it. Okay. If not, there is this wonderful interpreter who's like basically channeling all this into Italian. So what is music to me? I guess it's a very simple and extremely complex question. Obviously, I guess my relationship with music has evolved a lot, especially in the past few years, in a way, especially in relationship to rituals, in relationship to the use of music in spirituality, let's say. My understanding of music evolved a lot, and I can let me answer in such a way. I started at some point in my life to research where music was coming from. It was after making a lot of films about music, a lot of films about mostly Western forms of music, rock, pop, and others. And then I was like, but where is this coming from? Why do we do that? You know? And little by little, because I started to travel, and then I guess we'll talk also about that, I realized that basically music comes from the sacred. Or basically, to put it in a very simple way, music has been there way before words. There's always been music in a sense, you know. What makes music music? How do we need a listener to have music? Do we think that music belongs to humankind, or did it already pre-existed humankind? I think all those things are very, very exciting to think about now, especially in relationship to nature. I would say, in my opinion, that music is actually the way that I could sort of like put it on a human type of kind level. Let's say music is the way that we relate with the invisible and try to make a deal. But I guess music is everything, everywhere, all the time. Music is vibration. Music is actually something that can be perceived by animals and not by us, depending on where we are limited, you know. We have a very limited scale as well, you know. We know sounds that we cannot hear. So in a sense, I would stick to that. It's a good one. What do you think? Music is a way to deal with the invisible. Yeah?
It's a good point to start, because actually, just not to arrive to the latest parts, I would like to start for, as you said at first, you know, you try to examine, you know, where the music comes from, you know. So in 2006, you actually started your first big project that was very innovative at the time. It was called La Blogotech. You made was this blog website that you made with your friends Christophe Abric.
Yeah, yeah. He already had a website, basically. He had a blog, music blog. And we became friends after meeting in many concerts in Parisian nights, you know, and after being drunk together, honestly. And I remember he decided to talk with me about this idea he had that, I would like to create maybe a video project for my blog and so on. And then we basically together come up with the idea of those takeaway shows here. Mm-hmm.
Because actually, you know, in a kind of way, that was your first attempt to actually see where the music was coming from, because you were filming all these, many of the groups that actually were probably some of the best group of the, let's say, independent, but also very famous musical scene from the West. That was, like, say, I don't know, Sigur Rós, The National, more than Grizzly Bear, more than Tom Johnson, more than Arcade Fire, and. But all in contexts that were very far away from industry, so that were very far away from actually the mainstream concept that we have of music, you know. But was like more in situation like in common situation where, you know, where you actually were more connection with the people. So already there was actually a kind of first attempt in your research of try to explore music and where it was coming from, that, or it was like completely, or you had no idea at the time?
I think it was more like I really wanted to basically. I was a huge music fan, but I was a huge music fan going to concerts. And I grew up in Paris, and I had this incredible luck to have access to so many musicians passing through town in a way. And so basically my relationship to music has never really been about listening albums, but really about going to see performances, you know. And in a way, little by little, I started to get interested in the way that music was represented visually. I come from photography, actually. I did a lot of photograph when I was around my 20s, and I was very much heavily under the influence of some photographers, and I had a hard time, actually, to kind of like get out of this influence, to find my own language. And then I sort of like slowly switched towards like moving images, especially I had the kick to move towards cinema and moving images the first time I saw the work of Peter Cherkassky. And if some of you do not know Peter Cherkassky, you have to. I would write. Peter Cherkassky is an Austrian filmmaker, experimental filmmaker whose work is extremely sensorial, physical. And it was the first time when I was in a cinema room where I felt something extremely physical and not intellectual anymore. And I was like, this is it. This is the way I want to go, because actually it gives me the same feelings that when I go see a band playing live, you know. And I guess it was like, how can I represent this energy going around in the room when I go see a concert? Because basically, I guess all of you know that the subjective experience you have in front of music is not conveyed in a way by, let's say, music documentaries filming band playing live. Because basically when you're in a crowd, you don't see shit, you know? You just feel. You smell, you're like, especially when you go see punk stuff, you know? Huh?
You sweat a lot.
Yeah, sweat a lot, and you go mad in a way. And at some point I was early on interested in that type of like trance type of relationship, because I was getting pretty wild actually in those concerts, and I was getting more and more into experimental music at the time, more and more into noise and stuff like that, and I would just like freak out in a way, you know, still being conscious, but still I would just like freak out, and people was like sort of like, oh fuck, you know, what's happening with that guy? But basically I was really like discovering something I didn't know, something which was basically, then I realized was later on a certain like trance type of relationship in a way to kind of like let it go, let your body take control, and yet and close your mind. And I guess all those ideas were sort of like there at the beginning of when we had this idea of the takeaway shows. How do we convey certain other spirits of music, to complement this, actually, to complement this desire to explore something which was very away from music videos, very, very away from music industry, actually, I had a very deep sort of like anarchist background. Let's say when I was 19, 20, I went really deep into some readings, especially of Guy Debord and the situationist movement. And I guess you might have heard about it because actually Guy Debord lived in Italy for a long time as well. And anyway, and this really shocked, and it blew my mind. It's sort of like, whoa. There is also another way to think about reality, about the way we live in society and so on. And so basically, very early on, I guess I realized that anarchism was about non-hierarchy. It was about basically putting everything on the same ground, and interacting when there is no stage, in a way. Interacting on the same level. And so I sort of like put all those like funny ideas together, and then we started to do the takeaway shows. And that was it. And basically, and then we did many of them. We did like once, twice, one or two sessions a week at the time, because basically we were doing something that nobody was doing nobody was doing any. Actually, I think that there was almost no video project on internet at the time. It's very interesting. It was 2006, yeah, and YouTube had 1 year, I think.
Yeah, it was right? Like the very early stage of YouTube.
Yeah, and I guess I got interested early on into the possibility of digital tools to kind of like to create another language, and especially to kind of like again, I think understanding internet at the beginning was an incredible anarchist platform, able to basically reassemble society in a different way. It's very important. I still believe it has this ability, even though it's been pretty wrong the past 10 years. The whole economy has been able to find a way to kind of like tweak the machine in the other direction. I still think there's still this possibility. I'm still exploring that possibility of like how do we share for free, actually, and how do we create another form of economy based on that. And so all the work from the beginning, which was very clear for me, we're going to do this all for free. We'll never even get money from the labels. We're going to refuse the money if there's any money, because we want our freedom, and we want to explore, and we want to basically have fun. We want to have a good time. And so just to finish on this, and I think I will show you just a little video, the TED video about that. There was no video project like that, but it was actually also a moment where music labels were like freaking out. They didn't have any idea of how to use internet, of how to basically show their artists online, and they were like, there was still Napster around, they were like, oh my gosh, they're stealing everything, and of course, which I do not believe we're stealing anything, we're just trying to make things differently. But anyway, and so we come up with that project, and it was suddenly, whoa, there is this project which is made for internet. We can it's an amazing promotional tool for our artists, and those crazy guys in Paris are doing it. So every time there was a band that we liked in town, we can start to get in touch, and very quickly, we got access to pretty much all the musicians we wanted. We were music fans, We were just like music fans trying to basically get closer. It was very simple, and that's what we did, and we got really fucking close. It was really like, whoa, it's very interesting, funny experiment, and most of the bands. The first at least 50 bands we've seen were like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. They had no idea they could do this. It was very interesting because we were asking them often to play in the streets, and none of those artists played in the streets before. I mean, how is that? Dude, you fucking have to play in the street, You have to get out. You have to fucking play for the people. Stop this great, you have your career, you make your money, it's cool, but still do not forget that there is something else. Anyway, here's I'm going to show you just a little extract I compiled just to give you an idea of the very different short films.
Slow down your day and I'm gonna miss you a lot.
To touch the green, green grass
Nobody raise your voices.
Walk away now, and you're gonna start a war.
So I'm laughing. That last one was such an incredible party, you know. Wow! And they had no idea, you know. The band is named Yesayer, and it was after their last show of the tour they were doing in Europe. And basically, I went to see them after the gig in Paris, and they were like, "No, no, 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 no. We want to get drunk and see the girls, you know. Like, no, we do this and we also do a film together, you know. Like, no. And it was really funny. And then it ended up like 2 hours later in his apartment, and we just like went fucking nuts. And all the neighbors as well went nuts, actually, yeah.
So actually, it was very interesting because that, as you said, you know, that was the early stage of YouTube, you know. So it was like a new stage for digital era. I mean, internet was already, you know, becoming quite popular since at least 10 years, but that was the real years that it was really getting, you know, boosting up in another way. And it was actually combining with the probably worst period of crisis of the music video. I mean, it was a moment that there was lack of ideas, there were not enough money as there were in the 90s. So this thing was very like a kind of cross bridge, you know, between two different times. So also what I wanted to know is actually how fast was actually, because you became very popular. I mean, the New York Times said that you were the people that actually changed the idea of music video. So, and the New York Times, so probably the biggest newspaper in the world. So, I mean, how it became very popular and said, but how fast was that? I mean, how was how the Blogotech, how much time it took, you know, to get into this kind of popularity? And then when it gets so popular in a kind of way, how it changed a lot into the things. It became more difficult to handle. It changed the way you were thinking about that it was starting as a thing very free, or it was everything the same? I mean,
I don't remember well, to be honest with you. You know, I don't remember exactly how it happened actually, and I truly mean it. I do not put much emphasis on memory. And it's also, I think, a very interesting topic. Maybe we could explore. We had some crazy talks like last night about that, about memory, remembering or not, you know. And I got you that quote by Friedrich Nietzsche, who used to say that the new forms of humankind are the ones who are going to be able to remember everything. And Nietzsche has been amazing, but he was very wrong on that, I think, you know. And it's very interesting. Anyway. We live in a society where we remember too much, but I think it's a very interesting topic. Maybe to develop later. I think it went pretty fast, very fast at some point, and pretty quickly there was more and more. Like we were also there is a few interesting things. We started to put more and more pressure on ourselves, which was very wrong, because that pressure was also built on the numbers, you know, of people watching. Remember that basically until very recently you would have no fucking clue of how many people will watch what you do. And I really, you know, it's like actually 15 years ago, before that you would do stuff, you have sort of like an idea of how many people access. But now things have been changing, and everybody's talking about those numbers, you know, and you optimize your website to track how many people at what time from which place. It's mad. And it's not the way to go at all. I do not think that's the way to go at all, because in a sense you sort of like flip your own being towards expectations from the people watching, trying to basically get more. It's a very completely fucked capitalistic thinking, actually. We have to get more. This is not what I wanted, obviously. Actually, and at some point, I guess that's what we wanted. And then little by little, it went mad in a way. I was like, no. You know, one session was less, like there was maybe less half views of one before, and then you start to think too much. Okay, maybe we should like do it again like this, or maybe that. And anyway, you know, shortcut. You just lose it. And I think there was a bit of that feeling at some point. And quickly I realized, no. This is going the wrong way. There was a lot of projects which started to get inspired by it. which was super exciting. You know, I mean, like, and then actually I was receiving emails of like people saying, "Oh, can I do the same?" You know, I'm like, "What do you mean? Of course. I mean, and I will never copyright such a shit. You know, it's like, of course, do whatever you want. It's so important actually." And then that's where I sort of like had, and then okay, last element, I started to get engaged by some bands and their management to work on bigger projects. And I don't remember exactly in which order it was, but I don't remember actually. It was the Arcade Fire project, which we started first. Arcade Fire asked me to basically go on tour with them and make a film with them. And it was extremely exciting because it was my favorite band at the time. I was, nuts about them. And it went really wrong. Really fucking wrong. And then I started to kind of like change my vision of stuff. I realized that basically I was trapped into a system where I was losing my freedom. And I actually on the Arcade Fire film, I lost the final cut. And I will never forget that. I will never forgive that. There's no way. It's like, oh my gosh, I lost the final cut on it. And then I said, fuck off. I really said, fuck off. You do not even put my name as directed by. I don't want. This is not my film. And so I'm not director of that film, actually, if you look at the credits. And then I got really excited to get, like, this is getting totally wrong. This whole music industry is not what I want to deal with, actually. I wanted to make films with the musicians themselves without any, people in between, simply. And I was pretty wild, and I was getting always, more and more, into aggressive mode, I guess, regarding also all that industry. I got another project, was much nicer, actually, with R.E.M., and they asked me to do whatever I wanted, which was amazing. But they were much more also creatively free. And
it was a marketing campaign for their Accelerate album,
we did a few things, yeah. We did a the weirdest marketing campaign for their new album, which was so funny. I sold them a crazy experimental web project, and they were like, yeah, sure. I was like, oh my God. It was basically for 3 months. I think the album was supposed to really be released on the 1st of April, in 2000 something, I don't know.
2008, if I don't remember badly. Or 7 or 8, or 7 or 8.
And then I told them, okay, so we're going to create this campaign, and that was my only time into marketing stuff, and I do not want to do that. But and then, okay, we're going to create a campaign that basically from the 1st of January, which means 3 months before, we're going to create a website. There's not even going to be the name of R.E.M. anywhere, but little by little, every day, we're going to release one image, or actually one plan séquence. Do you have a word in Italian?
Piano sequenza.
Piano sequenza. One piano sequenza. Every day. And little by little, I think after 10 days, you would sort of be able to recognize Michael Stipe's voice. You're like, whoa! It's related to R.E.M., And then little by little, it was a very interesting way to kind of basically I did a film. We did a film with my friend Jeremiah with them, and then we sort of deconstructed it. We deconstructed the film in 90 piano sequentia, and then we released all the piano sequentia online, little by little, and basically people could download the file on the day in high resolution, everything for free, and they could redo their own film. And it was really the idea. It was oh shit. And after a while, after maybe a month, we basically revealed it was R.E.M. was behind, and you had to follow, and you could actually get some snippets of the new album, and actually some stuff which would not be on the new album, and you could also basically cut your own R.E.M. film with that, and it was really funny. And it went really interestingly, actually. It was really funny. And then I created also a music video for them, which was actually 12 music videos that you could go online, and anyway. It was very nice, but then it was it was over. It was over for me. I had to go somewhere else, basically.
In the middle of that, if I don't remember bad, you correct me if I'm wrong. There was a project that I actually don't know too much about, but that I would like to know is you made it with a Danish band that is called an Island.
Efterklang, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When you actually started, what was this kind of first? Kind of very, let's say, self-distribution of the private-public screenings,
Interesting as well.
And it was very interesting because it was the first moment, I think, where you were really leaving completely any kind of contact with the industry, trying to set your own free way of producing and distributing. So I think it was a very topic moment of their career, but I don't know too much about it. So actually it was.
I'm wondering if I have like actually the trailer or something like similar to a trailer there. Yeah, I might show you something which is quite nice. And preview. Let me just check something. Yeah, okay, cool. I might show you something. It's like 5 minutes long, but basically, I'm just gonna like talk a little bit before. Efterklang is a really, really nice band from Denmark. I think they sort of like stopped playing, but it's not really true. They're funny people. We wanted to make a project for a long while, and at some point we were sort of like talking too much about it. It could not be simply a takeaway show. It had to be a bit more ambitious, you know. And I also wanted to work on longer forms, but very hybrid forms, very experimental ones. And so we finally decided to spend like 3-4 days on an island in Denmark, where they are from, and to involve their family, to involve their friends, and to basically create something there, you know, create a film together. And so we did it, and it was really a fabulous experience. It was really like a bunch of friends having really a good time in creating something. And then I remember at the end of the project, basically we had this really nice film, which is 46 minutes long maybe, and which is sort of like a awkward format in a way. And then
mid-length films. A mid-length film.
Mid-length films, yeah, for mid-length film festival, yeah. And then we were sort of like thinking, how do we release that? And I was like, yeah, fucking, we release it on internet, you know, we put it for free, everybody can. And they're like, no, chill out. 1 second. And then they come up with the idea of like doing those private public screenings, which was basically for 1 or 2 months when we released the film online. You could watch the film simply by registering and organizing your own screening. So basically, if you wanted to see the film, you had to basically organize your screening, which was very nice, actually. It was amazing. It was an incredible success. And I was so happy about this because it was such a simple and fun way to kind of like gather people, you know. I think again, related to all this in a way is basically how do you use those digital tools to create new forms of communities, obviously, you know, physical ones, and how do we find the balance in between both. And that was a really nice experiment because we had people organizing stuff at home in their living room with their grandparents, you know, and they would send us photos, and then we asked people, please send us photos of the screenings, and we received the most hilarious photos. Of course, some people did like proper sessions in cinemas, some people did it in the street or in restaurants, and basically using some very simple equipment, you know, and so on. And it was amazing. It was a fabulous experience, you know. And then a few years later, I met someone who told me, oh, you know what? I went to one of those like screenings because basically you could just like check on a website and type the name of your city and see what was the screening the closest to you. The thing is that if you were organizing a screening, you had to leave the door open. That was the rule. You could not refuse people. And he told me, yeah, so I went to a screening, and actually, you know, now I'm married to the wife who was organizing the screening. So I went to do amazing. So I was like, yeah, this is why we make films, actually, you know, great. Good job. Let me show you now a little song, okay? It's like it's a beautiful song. So anyway, Efterklang, thank you so much. So it's part of an island. It's one extract, actually. The name An Island, I took it from Aldous Huxley. For the one who knows, it's a weird trip. I was tripping on Aldous Huxley last book, Island. Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay? Yeah.
Time is right when the mission fails. The coming boys that kept me safe, and it is stupid, but it is true. The flood is gone and the trouble stays. The car was slow, but it took us more we fall, the more we grew. The coldest truth, the coldest truth. Days to go, the game was fun. The clappers roll, but the game is home. The more we fall, the more we grew. Upon the truth, upon the truth.
Oh my god, whoa. You know I hate nostalgia, right? Yes. And that's why I don't watch my films. It's just, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Just about this, it's really funny. Obviously, it's their parents playing with them, so it was a really nice way to kind of combine all this generation, experiment, and even sort of like know that they would. You know, they were enough open to know that they would not play the best versions of the song ever because they had their parents playing with them, were fucking up the whole thing. But we were like, we still do it, you know? It's much more, you know, it's much more beautiful. But just a little anecdote, the guy who's like brushing like the, you know, he's actually a very famous pianist now, Niels Fram. You might have heard about him, actually. It's funny. He was already a pianist at the time, and he didn't start that. Oh my God, it was very nice, yeah. You go on.
So, the good that from this moment, you know, you started actually to travel a lot, you know, much more than you probably were doing before, and you started to search music all around the world, and you started to put in the seeds of what actually it appears to be your focus now, you know, in what. So you started to actually go into film bands that were not like related to like the big Western scenes, but I don't know, very local and very deeply related to the territory where you were going to, what you were going to shoot. So
little, but I had no expectations about that. I had no idea. I didn't plan to basically sort of like say fuck off and I'm gonna like film something else. I just started to travel. I just like basically. I don't remember again. I guess 2009 maybe. I was
2010.
2010. This is really funny, actually. I started to really like. I was still living in Paris. I was traveling a lot to New York to also film, and I was like, I want something else, and I basically, well, it's a love story which brought me away from Paris, and I just took my backpack, and I really said, oh, okay, it's fine. I closed everything, and I gave everything I had in my apartment, and to my friends, you know, I was like, you know, I won't need that now. I just like live with my laptop, with my camera and my microphones, and I just like I'm gonna travel and see. And then I traveled for 5 years actually like that. And basically, I didn't plan anything, but basically meeting people and slowly getting deeper into what really is, I guess, what is all about. You know, what is this all about? And I guess that's been mainly my quest. Yeah, researching slowly, as we talked about, where is music coming from actually, and I started to travel and get when I started actually to travel, I was almost looking for the same type of sound, you know. I was looking for local rock bands and stuff like that. There's one thing I would like you to play it for you actually, which is very nice, which can like make the bridge pretty soon. I'm going to play it because then it's not related to the sacred after that. But basically, I wanted to portray people in their own communities. And as I said in that conference you've seen online, you know, I wanted basically to show to young kids that their grandfather was as cool as Beyoncé. And I really think that was the case, you know. How do you sort of like switch the way we relate to images? How do you basically work, honestly, very much against the North American mass media techniques to fucking invade culture all around the world and make you believe that this is better, when it's not. It just goes more on TV, you know? It's very important to understand that we love those like big artists because we've been hearing their music over and over, and at some point it sticks, you know, it stays there. And I think that was very important early on. I realized that, oh, we have this incredible tool, we have this incredible window, and we have the tools to make our own recordings, as we say, to become our own media, and then to create a new form of reality, create a new discourse on reality, show things on a different angle. And that's been a very important quest for me, very important.
Actually, for me, that was the most important question that relating of when I saw Hybridos for the first time. I was very fascinated about the fact that there wasn't any kind of professionalism industry anymore, and it was like a concept completely of a rediscover of cinema made in a completely different way, made with the community and for the community. We talked about it later. I mean, you know, we talked about it yesterday. You know, like the fact what it was actually impressing me most is that all the videos that I've seen, you have a very, very, very close contact with all the people. That means that the people were trusting you enough, actually, to get so close to them, you know, and to actually know them. So you succeed to develop a kind of relationship because you were actually working with them and relating to this community and all stuff like that. So I wanted to understand more with you, you know, this passage, you know, this passage that it passed from, I don't know, filming, like a kind of the industry, to pass to completely avoid this kind, as you said, all this kind of system and start in a new form of production, because actually it's a new form of production. The most innovative part of that and inspiring for me was the fact that actually you came out with a very technical, beautiful films, but it was actually made without the help of any kind of professionalism structure, but it was actually made by the community that you were actually working with.
A few ideas there, actually. I think early on I got the feeling that those new tools that were coming on the market, and I'm really talking about those like new tools, those new cameras and editing softwares, you know, and so on, which have been there. I mean, for how long can you edit on such a little machine, you know, for like 10, 15 years maybe, you know? And it's quite recent, but it's extremely powerful. It's extremely powerful. Basically, the industry at some point released some extremely powerful tools in society which were quite affordable. Obviously, I come from a place where I could afford that and not other people. The thing is that early on I realized, wow, this is amazing. This is actually, I don't know if you know this very incredible, oh fuck, that's a great reference. There's a documentary on the shooting of Apocalypse Now, made by the wife of Francis Ford Coppola. I guess you know which. I don't know if it's like Beyond Darkness, something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about? I think maybe I'd got the Academy Award of Best Documentary on that year, but I'm not sure. But basically, it's a documentary on the shooting of Apocalypse Now, which is either 74 or 78, no? I don't know. Anyway, it's even better than Apocalypse Now, and I really swear. It's an incredible lesson on humankind and cinema and how things can fuck up big time. And how a man gets mad. And at the end of the film, I think it's in the film, I'm pretty sure, Coppola talks to his wife in a very simple way. He's like, you know, this is nuts. This is nuts. I got completely nuts, like sort of like completely stuck into this massive industrial game, and this is not the way it should go. I really think, and that's Coppola said, talking about this early 80s, I think, he said, I really think that pretty soon, we're going to have a girl, 15 years old, with a camera in her hand, and she's going to make a masterpiece. And that's going to be cinema. And I was like, fuck, amazing. Sure, he should have done those films, actually, himself. But he sort of like envisioned this coming. And this has come, and the thing is that this has been ejected. or sort of like rejected very early on, basically, we haven't been respecting enough. And the power of those tools to educate the people, to use them to make actually an incredible new form of cinema. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to basically explore this and make beautiful cinema. I come from a very aesthetic type of relationship with images. I come from photography, and I've been always very obsessed with images, you know, from Tarkovsky to Kubrick to, you know, Marker. And anyway, and there's like something I really want to achieve, which is related to beauty. Very much, and I really assume that very much. I think it's very important to talk about beauty, and I wanted to basically explore the tools of the day, you know. And if you explore the tools of the day, you just realize you don't need a team. You just need a few friends to make some amazing stuff, to explore reality in a different way. And again, I think also the fact that using those tools allow you is incredible freedom in terms of recording and amount of recording. Basically, it also changes the rules of the game for me in terms of writing. You know, I do not write anything because I do not think that's the way I want to go. I do not want to preconceive any project in my mind. I want the project to appear like magic because we fucking took all the risks possible to make it happen, and then the project have its own life, you know? And I really believe that's the way I really want to let the films exist in a way. Films are conscious, you know? Everything is conscious. If you realize this, then you realize that it's not your own ego creating anything. It basically goes through you, and you have to fucking be good at like creating that bridge, you know, for this idea to be carried on and then taken over by someone else and carried on in another way. It's all a remix type of process. As nature has been doing, right? Nature has been evolving, remixing itself. It's a very, very simple thing, actually. So that's why I think we should cherish this age of remixes, you know? We should also cherish the digital age for allowing us to basically get out of the materiality, get out of the limits of materiality, and enter an age of constant possible reproduction without losing quality, and actually getting deeper and deeper into the matrix. And I think maybe we'll come later on that, if we have time, on the link between digital and spiritual world, because it's very, very important for me. Anyway, I guess I was just like, from the very beginning of the takeaway shows, and up to now, I've just been doing the same thing. I've just been applying the same idea, you know. I didn't change my method of working at all in between. Not at all. I've just been trying to basically make a film without money. That's what I'm doing. I'm still doing it. You just, you know, I just get my camera, or I borrow a camera, and you borrow the microphones, and you get things like giving you a ride, and bing, you know, and it happens, and then you make stuff happen. And I really love that game with reality. And I think when I started to travel and by myself, I was just still actually able to do the same things, you know, work with people locally, and then actually work with them to discover something that they didn't even know sometimes, you know. It was very interesting because when I started to travel, everybody would tell me like, you know, I would be like in Russia, in North Caucasus of Russia, which is an incredible part of the planet. And my friends are like, yeah, you want to make films? Cool, there is a guy, he sings a bit like Beirut. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go for that. I want to go for the local old singers, you know. And they were like, that stuff? Yeah, I want to go for that. And then we will go for that. We will go for that experiment. And in the process of that experiment, they would rediscover their own culture on some levels, you know. They would rediscover that, fuck, actually, this has to be respected. This is not this shitty old folklore, which is really boring and embarrassing, you know. And I grew up with that knowledge and that feeling. When I grew up at school and when I was 6-7 years old, we would do that, like those folkloric dances, and I would be like ashamed, you know, about that. And how did we end up being so ashamed about that? This is the heart of it. This is a really fucking sorry. And I think that in a sense, I realized little by little that we've been just like, we cut something at some point. We lost the transition. And then we created traditions, you know. We said, oh, and then this is traditional, you should not touch. Which is also very wrong, you know. Of course you gotta touch. You fucking have to touch. You have to make it live again. You have to keep the movement going on. And I guess this idea of like, going to see those people and film them, and actually film them in sometimes weird situation again, because I was sometimes applying the same ideas, was also a way for me to kind of be part of the game, be part of how do we make a new form of music almost together, you know? Let me just show you like a little song that I love and it's fucking beautiful. And incredible band from from Kiev. And then we go deeper into rituals and trance and mind expanding ceremonies. But this is one of the greatest bands in the world. In case you don't know them, they are from Ukraine. And actually, what they do is extremely avant-garde in a way. Which, I mean, it's considered avant-garde in a way which it should not. They are basically continuing the music of their own land, and they put it to another level. Do you know them, Dara Braha? Oh my gosh, get ready. I'm so happy, It's like, honestly, this is really. I'll just show you one song. It's like, you have the entire film online. Dara Braha, I was in Kiev. And it's a very interesting story as well, I think. I was in Ukraine for some time, just traveling around. I went to the Carpathian Mountains to do some recordings and so on. And then I was in Kiev, and I really wanted to record a band there in town. I wanted to film the city, maybe to create my own memory of it. Anyway, and then I got in touch with this more religious song-based group, and then I meet the guys. And they're young people singing like church songs and so on. I'm like, oh, interesting. I'm really interested in that. And then I remember having a coffee with the guy just a day before we were supposed to shoot. And we start to talk about music. And I don't know why. He probably didn't know what I was doing. But he goes into this very weird talk. And he says to me, and I know. And I'm asking, you play religious music only? He's like, yeah, only religious music. You know what? I was talking with the father of that church the other day. You know what he told me? That rock is really the music of the devil, you know? and I looked at him and was like, oh my gosh, fuck, this is so retarded. How do we do now? I just stood and I left. And was like, well, I don't know what to do now. I'm just not going to do the film with you. And I left, and I was like, shit, I really want to make a film now. And on that same night, I was really sad actually, because I was leaving 2 days after, and I was like, fuck, I should not probably. Anyway, and the guy was like, oh, do you know Dara Braha? And like, I don't know. And then we start to drink wine, and he started to make me listen music, and then we got to like those crazy ideas, and I don't know how I make this weird association, because he also tells me about this weird place by the river, by the beach, where people do musculation and so on, and then 24 hours later we're there on that beach with the band making the film, and it's amazing. So Dara Braha for you. It's about rhythm, il ritmo. It's all about rhythm. Life is all about rhythm, and as you will see maybe now. Grande, grande. I just saw you, because I didn't show you the name of the band. Oh shit, I do that. Dakha Bracha. Dakha Bracha, that's it. D-A-K-H-A and then B-R-A-K-H-A. Yeah, exactly. Dakha Bracha. Amazing, beautiful people. It's all about rhythm, and I really mean it. In a sense that slowly, and I think that film was really, really exciting for me to shoot. So basically also, just so you understand, there is no rehearsal, there is no second take actually. It's all shot in one take, obviously. And I didn't know the music before. So it's very interesting for me to improvise, to be on that, well, you can make mistakes, but they're going to be in the final result in a way. In a sense, that was really, really kicking me to kind of like make those films, is that I was playing, you know. I was really playing, and I'm still playing. I'm still in that sort of like desire to not, again, to not have any ideas before, because then I will try to reach that idea, and I know I will completely fail to reach that idea, and it's going to be a painful thing, you know. It's all about rhythm. It's all about this sort of like connection, dialogue in between bodies, and I really, really think it is. And in a sense, as you can see in that video, at some point the camera accelerates, and it's very interesting. I think that there's a break, and it goes again. And I think it's really trying to create a visual relationship to something which is quite similar to trance at some level, or trying to trigger really in the eye of the viewer something which make him lose control as well, you know. And that's from that moment on, I think, that I started to really work on that. How do you basically trigger through images something else, which is not an intellectual perspective coming from the viewer, but much more a sensorial experience.
Emotional, yeah, that touches on the very level. And the things, you know, that I like in a kind of way, you know, because with all these films, when you start to travel, at this moment you have an amount of video that is huge, you know. It's a kind of sort of archive, you know. I wanted to come back to the film about the importance of memory in a kind of way. You know, we talked yesterday, that, for example, I talked on a personal level that me like, but also like many people, I think, on this moment on the planet, you know, like they live with the scare of you know, to die, and the fact of recording things, you know. In one of your TED, the one that you made in Rio de Janeiro, you started asking yourself a question: why do we record today, you know? And you record a lot. So I'm actually asking, why do you record today? And
basically, I like to film, right? I do not like to record. But the tool I'm using is actually a recorder as well. So I'm trying to find a way to use that recording to not be just an archive. And it's a very important thing for me. In a sense, let's put it into this other way. You might get familiar with the work of ethnomusicologists of the 20th century, especially Alain Lomax and others, which have been basically traveling around the world and recording basically things that we do not find anymore. Incredible music from, and so on and so on. And a lot of people sort of like compare me a bit to those ethnomusicologists, and are like, so, you know, do you feel also you're like, it's really your mission to kind of like record things before they disappear? And then that's where I'm like, no, you got it wrong. Because I do not think, but it took me a while to reach that point, though. I didn't understand that, and it's just recently, in the past 4 or 5 years, that I came to that realization that nothing disappears. Nothing disappears. And again, I was talking about the idea of the remix, basically, that everything becomes something else, you know? Nothing dies, actually. Or death is just a passage to another thing. And actually, I can give you many crazy examples about that, because a lot of people could tell me, yeah, but what about a language who died, you know, who disappeared, a tribe who lost its language, which is a very big topic those days. And I don't know if you know, there's a lot of organizations fighting for that, survival and so on and so on. They're doing a very interesting job, but it's a very sort of, consciously, I think it doesn't go enough far in terms of understanding the mechanics of reality. Maybe that's where I'm starting to trip, maybe. But basically, it's a very interesting example, I think. A friend of mine has been working in Brazil, in the northeast of Brazil, with a tribe who lost its language quite a long time ago, 100 years ago. The tribes, of indigenous tribes in Brazil, I live in Brazil for the past 4 years, so I've been making this project. And so we've been traveling quite a lot. And in basically all the tribes who were closer to the coast, obviously, got invaded and destroyed, genocided. It was the largest genocide on the planet, actually, earlier than the others, you know. So there was a few survivors here and there, but, you know, that tribe lost its language. Fine. 5-6 years ago, there was this new experiment based on, like, basically a university tried to give actually some recording tools to the tribe to basically work on their the last knowledge they had, you know, last stories they could pass on and so on. The elders were like asked to talk to the youngsters who had the recording tools and so on. And then something magical happens. Basically, they started to develop in a way or another. I do not know exactly how. I do not know if it was involving a psychoactive plant. Might be, but I'm not sure. But basically, they decided to develop a new ritual, a new form of ceremony, a trance ceremony, where in this ceremony, the elders were getting in trance and started to talk in an unknown language. Everybody's like, what are they talking about? Where is this coming from? Little by little, they realized that this unknown language are actually the lost language that they found again. So good. They found again the lost language in the trance process by accessing to a certain like memory which exists in consciousness, which exists actually in a space that I would say that we all live in, right? There's a lot of very interesting studies, and I don't know if you know the work of Rupert Sheldrake, for example. Rupert Sheldrake, sorry, I didn't prepare you for that one. Rupert Sheldrake is an English researcher, scientist who's been like sort of like very much on the margins of modern science studies because he's been going pretty far in his understanding of reality, and he's been basically postulating the idea that we all live in a field of consciousness, that we have access through different means, you know. Obviously, rituals and modified states of consciousness are a great way to access this knowledge. So basically, we're just talking about hard drive, the famous cloud. And again, I think that's where we start to find similarities in between the digital and the spiritual world, because actually they even have the same name. So basically, the cloud where we upload all our data is actually a cloud which also exists in terms of consciousness. And it's very, very interesting because in a sense, all the shamanistic forms knew about that, and that knowledge got lost little by little. Centuries and centuries later, we come up with those tools and they're branded, and it's annoying, you know, because it would not be such a problem if we had developed new forms of tools to access consciousness, except they're all part of a market, and then it doesn't really play the game of society at its best, you know. So it's a very interesting. So basically, I've been sort of assigned to research on that. And why did I go into that talk about languages now? I'm lost. Why did I say that?
We started to the phase on why do we record?
Why do we record? Yeah. So basically,
and to the importance of memory.
So yeah, just to come back on that, I think yes, and you mentioned something interesting. Exactly, the problematic we have with the recording aspects of our society is basically we are creating more and more nostalgia, or basically we are creating a very heavy. I think we are burdening ourselves with memories which do not allow us to develop interesting ideas for the future, to put it very simply. Or, to put it in another way, we've been creating a society which is obsessed by death. Obsessed by things which disappear. Obsessed by the disappearance of things. And that is basically, I would say, the main problematic we have in this society where we live in. We are feared to death, you know. We have no, and that is exactly the opposite of basically building a new form of society where we share in a different way, where we basically evolve and create a new form of humankind, to be simple, actually.
That's why I wanted to mention another thing that you told me yesterday. You know, you talk about a book that is called In Praise of Forgetting, you know.
Yeah, In Praise of Forgetting, written by an American guy, I forgot his name.
Yeah, exactly. Only because, you know, we are living a period that is, as I say, part of society said that we are not actually remembering enough what the mistakes that we did in the past, you know, and now history is repeating in a kind of way. Yeah. And yesterday you talked to me about this book, and I think it's a very interesting point of view about what you say about the fact of the importance or not importance of memory. It's a very polemical point
of view in a way, because we are definitely not used to hear that. Basically, David Reef is the son of Susan Sontag, that some of you might know. He kind of like... he kind of like he was actually a war reporter mostly in the 90s, so he covered a lot for the New York Times, the Balkanic Wars, and at some point he realized that history was not playing a good game for us. It was not helping us. Memories were not helping, but he develops it in a very he develops it over like 400, 500 pages. So basically, what I'm going to do is obviously reduce it to something. But his idea is extremely interesting. It basically says that we believe in our society that remembering the past is going to help us to not make the same mistakes in the future, which is completely wrong. Because we face our society those days. We're just doing the same mistakes, even worse than we did in the past, even though we have the tools to remember. Even though George Orwell wrote 1984 or Aldous Huxley wrote Brave New World, and we were looking at that, it's like, oh, you know, and you will go to school and fucking read those books, and this is the worst idea of the future. This is the worst place where we can end up, and we are slowly ending up there. It's like, how did that work? How? Weird thing happened in our way of behavior, right? And basically he puts it in a very interesting way. We do not use history in the best way possible. We basically give the ability to people to divide themselves even more through that. Basically you put the finger on a certain moment of history and then you fight again, you know? It's basically the Balkanic Wars were basically made on that. Some dudes were like, that's the problem. At this time, you did that. And the others said, no, you got that, we did. And no. And then we never go back to the origins of time. That's the problem. You know, where do we all come from? That would be like, oh, wow, that's much more a unifying type of like idea. Then, you know, we all come from the same tribe. Let's put it like this, you know. It's very interesting because when people sort of like say, I really like to talk about that in a way, that we all come from tribes, you know, we all come, and people there's a lot of like tensions in our societies around identities, actually. I will say that main problematic we face in our society is basically we have divided identities into so many crazy things, crazy little slots that they do not interact anymore together. And so where do we go from there? So it was a question that I was really, really asking myself a lot when I was traveling, because I was traveling mainly, I guess, at some point to kind of like discover how we can make a better form of society together. And so you go around the world and you sort of like see those people, what they did, and then you sort of like, oh wow, why don't we put those ideas and those ones, and you know, everybody does that in its mind at some point. And at some point I realized actually it's probably through a rebirth of spirituality, a rebirth of ceremonies, a rebirth of ritualistic relationship, that we will be able to go over those problematics. Because the ritualistics, the shamanistic experiences are, and in a way that's basically, I'm sort of like switched straight there, because basically that's where also I am researching now, especially for the past 4 years. We've been living in Brazil, making this large project about different forms of rituals. If we went to Brazil, because I was pretty much certain that there we would find an incredibly avant-garde form of like relationship to spirituality. And that's what it is in a sense. Brazil, even though now Brazil is facing a complete chaos in a way, Brazil has been able to develop a very interesting hybrid identity, even though it went through all, again, those problematics of history, obviously, and they were fucking big, actually, you know, but it created a very interesting, crazy form of culture, many different forms of music and cultural expressions emerge from that, and still now, they're sort of like in this incredible dialogue, you know. There is not traditions in such a society. As the Brazilian one, you have basically constantly moving elements that you gather together in a different way, you know. Take the Afro-Brazilian rituals named candomblé, which were basically an evolution of African forms of ritual, which basically do not exist per se in Africa like that, and they were mixed early 20th century with like more European forms of spiritism to create a new form named Umbanda. And then Umbanda in the past 20-30 years evolved and got in touch with ayahuasca, the plant from the indigenous people, and which was already mixed with like Christian Catholic churches in Santo Daime rituals to make Umban Daime rituals. So basically the thing is like constantly evolving, constantly creating new forms. And the images you see in the back, this is from a Santo Daime ceremony. All the images you see in the back are actually images from that project, Hybridos, where I'm going to show you actually the teaser of it now. So basically Hybridos has been this long research on this pluralistic expression of Brazilian spirituality and how this is an incredibly inspiring laboratory for all of us. At some point, I realized it was not really a project about Brazil, it was really a project about how do we behave together, how do we connect, and how do we go further. So here's a little teaser of the feature film. You said there's a feature film, there's a website, I will show you the website after. Wow, nice. Thanks a lot. So this is like just a very simple teaser that I had to make because we had to kind of like face the fact of it's the first and probably last project I do where I really went through all the process of doing a proper sound mix in 5.1, doing the color correction, doing the DCP. I mean, it's great, you know, it's important to have experiences and to learn. So I learned from that experience and I won't do it again. But it's interesting in a way, because I always like to, explore, of course, to keep that freedom and explore new different forms. And there I felt really stuck. Yeah, I felt really stuck because I had, if I wanted to basically this feature film to go in cinema venues, I had to respect the codes of the industry and go into the DCP, which is the least open type of format. And anyway, I got really mad at the restaurant last night talking about it, so let's not do that again. Yeah,
but about actually, ritual, coming back on the relationship between sacred and digital, in a society that in a kind of way, in a part of that is losing sometimes, their will to gather together again, they're always more fragmented into that. How do you think, as you said, that digital can help, like to find again a kind of spiritualism, in a kind of society that, for what I understood, is also a kind of very strong point in actually on how this society can do better, and how actually, how in this moment, actually is the relationship between, new rituals and society. Is this society, let's say, spiritualized? I mean, as a good relationship with spirituality, or is it something that has been lost during and is recovering slow and slow?
Large question, and I definitely do not have a clear answer on all this, even though I'm just trying see where we can go with that.
From your experience, I mean.
Yeah, it's basically, yeah, it's just my own experience. And again, what is reality if not your own experience? There is not one reality that everybody could agree around. And I think that's probably the problematic also we are like facing in this society, where we sort of like trying to encapsulate reality into one model and everybody follow that model. And it's obviously the most alienating thing you can do. So how do we respect this plurality of visions of reality of life, and at the same time find a way to unify all this? Basically, how do we respect and still manage basically to celebrate the diversity of all those tribes, of all those like villages, of all those different people all around the world, and at the same time gather it all together to go higher, and that's really what I'm thinking. It's not an easy thing to do, and I think it's obviously the game of a few generations, I would say. The problematic we have is that we do not have much time. I don't want to say, you know what I'm talking about. We don't have much time to kind of change mentalities and consciousness. To put it very simply, maybe to kind of like, I tend to go pretty far into this talk. If I'm researching on rituals and the way that people trance together, is because from my own experience, I kind of like realize that basically the most amazing, intense, fast way to change consciousness is actually through regaining spirituality. To put it into another way, the greatest problem we face in our society is a crisis of consciousness. It's not only like, you could separate, our society is very good at it. We could separate. This is an ecological crisis, next to an economical crisis, next to a migrant crisis, obviously, next to all of it, mon ami. All of it is actually a crisis of consciousness. Our society has been like trapped into separating things into genres. And that's exactly what created the mess we're in. We have been specializing. And in the end, the people who have some parts of the answer, they do not talk to each other. And basically, we are not able to move forward and to really create a better platform for all of us. I do think in that regard, and that might sound a bit harsh, but I do think artists have failed big time. Big time, actually. Artists, creators, and I really mean it in a very open way, are supposedly the ones who are going to bring a light towards this new path to explore for humanity, Yes, the avant-garde, yes, the ones, they've always been, at some point, leading the way for consciousness to evolve. This has not been the case for the past 30 years, let's say, 40 years. And it's a very interesting thing to kind of like envision, to try to think about how do most of the artists those days have lost that relationship with reality, and a lot of it has been lost into bullshit like conceptual art and so on. Completely away from what really matters now, I think it's really a question that I am asking myself, How do I feel responsible those days? How do I feel responsible by basically going around, having an amazing time, recording all those incredible people, sharing their sounds, their bodies, their dances, hoping that with those images would have an impact on the way we perceive them, giving, of course, all those films to the people that I filmed, asking them, please use it, share it, do whatever you want with it. And how do I use those 2 hours on the stage in front of you and feel responsible about it? How do we create this moment an interesting, maybe at least a little bit enlightening moment for all of us, and I'm including myself in that. How do we basically work with all those ideas, and how do we put them together? And at the end of the day, cool. We think we've been a bit further now. So that's basically what I've been trying to find, especially in the past 2 years, where I started to develop the idea of like live cinema performances, often including as well musicians, where we kind of like replay the films themselves. That basically I'm just giving you one example of what I've been trying to explore personally with those recordings. I'm sort of like playing the recordings, mixing them live, and actually I asked Alessandro if I could do it here, but maybe next time. And basically, it's sort of weird, very experimental form of VJing with all those different sounds in a completely improvised way, mixing them live, sometimes working with local musicians. For example, I give you a very interesting story. One of the best projects I've been working on recently was in Morocco. I was with my partner Priscilla there, and basically we've been doing this like research for like a week in Fez, in Morocco, on Sufi rituals. We've been recording a lot of like Sufi rituals around the world. Sufism being the mystical part of Islam, if some of you might not know. Incredible forms of ritual, extremely powerful and basically the most endangered in form of like radical stupidity happening in some parts of Islam actually. So those people are basically the poets of Islam and are basically very much needed. Because they are also the yin and the yang. It's very interesting. If you get deeper into Islam, actually, you understand that the Quran represents the material aspect of Islam, while the Sufi texts are actually the spiritual part, and they work together. It's a dance. You cannot understand Islam, and I did not understand Islam before going to Sufism. It's very interesting. So an Islam without Sufism doesn't make sense, honestly. Anyway, and so in Morocco, they do have still a lot of like Sufi rituals happening, and they're marvelous. And so basically, we filmed the ritual with them. We filmed a bit in Fez, and then we had 3-4 days to edit all the material. So basically, it means like a lot of, very little bit of sleep, and a lot of work, crazy, to kind of like create different sequences. And then we had the big show at the end of the festival in an incredible, marvelous place. I don't know if some of you have been in Fez. It's quite a stunning place. And then we invited them on stage. So basically, they arrived on stage and we were playing some images we shot during the week of nature, of the streets of Fez, and interacting a little bit with the sound as well of the streets, plus their music. And little by little, actually, and that was basically what was planned, but not to such a point, we asked them to kind of like go deeper into the ritual, to even play the same music of the trance ritual we filmed a few days before. And then, in that moment, suddenly, the images and the music on stage were said to really merge together. Actually, I was even behind the machine without knowing where the sound was coming from. I didn't know if it was my sound or their sound. I was like, this is amazing, fuck. We are in it, choke, cosmic. We were really into this like really interesting cosmic trip together. And I really mean in a way that at some point, so we were playing the images of the trance ritual, and their music on stage was taking over the sound of the trance ritual of the film. And it was merging to the point that basically at some point, some people in the audience started to fall in trance again. And I was like, oh, so good. That was very interesting. That was very like, wow, that was it. That's very much where I want to work, to kind of like try to evolve. How do we create, actually, yes, new forms of ritual using those like tools? How do we embrace maybe the most avant-garde artistic approaches and match with spirituality up there, because it's the same thing. Art and spirituality are the same on that level. And that's where they talk. And that's where we have to go.
I wanted to ask you, because we were talking about Sufi ritual, maybe if you could, to give an idea what it is, you show me before like a video of a Sufi ritual in Chechnya.
Yeah, okay, cool.
If you can
so I show you just like a little extract of it.
Like an extract of it, to people to understand how the level of trance in this kind of ritual arrive.
Yeah. The one in Chechnya, so again, I think Chechnya is obviously deeply interesting and deeply traumatized place. They've been facing 2 wars at the end of the 90s, end of the 90s, and then early year 2000. They've been destroyed, basically. They destroyed the land, they destroyed the houses, they killed many people, obviously. What you cannot take away from a human being is his soul and his spirituality. And so they've been able to really maintain this incredible level of spirituality by some of the deepest and most like powerful rituals I've ever seen, actually. So I'm going to show you just a little extract. This is part of rituals. The name of the series I made there was named The Great Jihad, and I will explain it. I'll just show you a short extract. Those rituals happen pretty much every day. Actually, I was in Chechnya only for 10 days, I think, and I filmed 5 rituals. And I get invited to them. They happen in houses. Families actually are throwing those rituals. It's very interesting because there's a obvious parallel you could make in between such rituals and wedding parties thrown by a family to show as well the richness, the wealth, the power of the family. So the more the family, the bigger the family, the bigger the money, the bigger the ritual, and they invite like hundreds and hundreds of people. It's extremely powerful, and it's like, wow, it goes. This is basically the main part of the ritual that we call a zikr or dhikr. It's the trance part. There is not really a specific time. It goes for 1, 2, 3 hours long without stopping. Before this, there is a lot of prayers, and there's a few closing prayers after that. They're mostly related to death, actually. They're mostly related to people who passed away, and we celebrate the memories of those people 1 year, 2 years, a few years later. Anyway, the series named The Great Jihad. Why The Great Jihad? Jihad, again, to kind of like try to deepen a little bit our talk and our knowledge of other cultures, because in the Quran, that I'm not at all a specialist, even though I've been talking about Islam for the past 15 minutes, I'm definitely not a specialist of it, but basically in the Quran, the idea of the jihad that we know as the holy war those days is actually the holy war against the other is the little jihad, the one that basically you should not really take that path. The path you should take is the path of the great jihad, is the war against your own ego. And I think it's very important to realize that the heart of basically all of those rituals I've been interested in, there is definitely what Mircea Eliade, for example, which was this great researcher on shamanism from the 50s, Romanian guy who worked in Paris, he said it in a very nice way. He said the shamanic ritual, he was talking mostly about the shamanic ritual. Okay, cool. Yeah, can you hear me okay still? Yeah? Basically, and Mircea Eliade used to say the shamanic experience. He was really talking about shamanism, but I think it's an idea that you can apply to a lot of like spiritual approaches. The shamanic experience is the ecstatic dissolution of ego. And I think it's a very, very beautiful way to put it, because well, that's the way I relate to it, because that's the way I experienced it as well, through my own trance, in a sense. But in a way, what I mean, and I think we went into talking about Sufism, because we were also talking about basically consciousness and the need to bring also another form of consciousness. And I think, yes, absolutely, the greatest way to kind of like bring a certain consciousness is actually to re-ritualize in our everyday life. Ritualize do not mean basically following Sufism or following all those ancient traditions. It means actually remodel new forms of being together and entering that space. And you know, we've been talking also a lot about that. Yes, last week I was giving a talk and a performance in a psychoactive conference. Yeah, that exists. It's very interesting. It's named Beyond Psychedelics in Prague. And I've been deeply interested, obviously, in the use of psychedelics, ayahuasca, iboga, mushrooms, and all those different various type of like medicines actually coming from nature, because they are also sort of like incredible threshold, in a way, to another level of consciousness. So basically, I'm just researching how do you combine all those different elements to bring new forms of rituals in our society, because I really think that's what bonds us together. That's what bonds us with nature. And that's what rituals have been doing since the most immemorial times. The shamanic experience of the tribal people was basically a way to access another higher level of reality that would make you fucking humble. You were just like, whoa, you don't mess with that, you know? And I think in a sense it's obvious that our materialistic relationship with reality in general now has been sort of like totally taking us very, very far from that. And very far to the point of basically losing our mind and creating a stupid form of society where we fight against each other. And I think, so that's basically really what I think. I really think the lack actually of ritual in our society, especially the lack of initiation rituals, which are basically rituals breaking at some point, mostly the men, but actually also women, depending on tribes, breaking the evolution of the child to the adult, you know? I think then it's a too long talk actually. I have there's so many incredible stories about this in a way. How much rituals are extremely powerful because they are also painful. Because in a way, it's an earlier on death-facing experience that you encounter early on in your life, you know? You are that far from dying. And by being sort of like that far from dying, I do not mean we have to go that close to dying early on, but basically sort of. We have to find an interface which allows us to basically encounter this trigger being triggering off the fear of death and being brought back to life, to this celebration of reality on an everyday basis, you know? So yeah, anyway, maybe we don't have much time, and I wanted to talk with you, so basically it's been a monologue, obviously, sorry for that. If you have any questions, I would be much more than happy to answer and talk with you. Please.
Ci sono domande?
Sono un po' frastornata perché tante cose. Se riesco a mettere a fuoco una cosa che mi ha molto colpito, che io pensavo non fosse possibile, è il fatto di rompere questa barriera fra il digitale, lo schermo, e diciamo tutta quella che è l'esperienza oggi di internet con un'esperienza spirituale, quindi di vibrazione. E mi ha fatto assaggiare il fatto che sia possibile. Io credevo di no, ma mi ha messo il dubbio. Non è una domanda, è una constatazione forse. E quindi mi interesserebbe approfondire questo. L'altra questione è sul discorso dei rituali, in qualche modo questi stati di coscienza, come posso dire, ipnotici, comunitari però, mi sembra di vedere, e non individuali. E la domanda che mi viene, ma non è che tutte le medicine che prendiamo oggi in fondo non sono una forma, diciamo, un po' avariata, non so, deteriorata, di contatto, non so, siamo tutti un po' drogati, ma da un punto di vista chimico, e non è che è una forma... non so, forse non troppo avanzata di ricerca di questo? È una domanda che faccio a lui.
Vincent?
Can you just repeat the question? Just the question, because it was cut and it was a bit messy. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, cool. Sorry. Thank you so much for the question. Thank you so much for I don't know if your question is like, if I gave you the impression that I was talking about rituals related to drugs all the time. Like, it was not the case, obviously, and especially not in that. They definitely do not take drugs in Islam, and at least not there. Even though a lot of like Sufi rituals are actually using marijuana to get high. And actually, it's very interesting because the use of marijuana is very linked to the history of Islam, for example. I don't know if you know that, even though it's been hidden a bit now, but actually even the word hashish actually is related to a tribe which was part of the earlier ages of Islam. So anyway, I do not think we need such medicines, psychoactive medicines, I'm mostly talking about, to connect together. I just do think that they bond us faster, definitely. And or to basically put it in a simple way, and I was reading this like really, really interesting talk given by a guy that I really have the deepest respect for. And he's not enough well known, but I'm going to give his name now, and I would like to know if some of you know him, which is the Terence McKenna, the American thinker and researcher. Anybody knows about McKenna here in the room? Please, nobody knows about McKenna? Oh, Terence McKenna. Oh, it's very interesting, actually. Yeah. So yeah, it's you see, fuck. I mean, now, wow. You know, we need to really share knowledge now. You know, it's important. I think that guy who died now, unfortunately, went very far into understanding reality and very bright light. Anyway, and he said it in a very simple way. He said that meditation and other spiritual techniques are very good if you have a lot of time in front of you and a lot of planets. But we don't have that time, neither more planets. So in a sense, he saw the psychoactive, those medicines are like extreme shortcuts towards higher levels of consciousness, which might really, if well organized, if well given, obviously, which is not the case even now, it's a bit messy. But if really an interesting form of society would definitely emerge from a deeper use of such medicines. Actually, I mentioned quickly as well the book Island by Aldous Huxley. Huxley, yeah. You get it, who wrote Brave New World. He wrote at the end of his life, and I really love Huxley for that, even though I cannot really pronounce his name right. Huxley who wrote Brave New World when he was in his 30s. Then he wrote The Doors of Perception when he was in his 40s, 50s, after actually encountering mescaline, so basically all related to the trance state and modified state of consciousness, which completely made him like access to another layer of reality. And then the end of his life, his last 15, 20 years, were very much dedicated to kind of like rethink the future, to the contrary of what he wrote when he was in his 30s in Brave New World, and find actually a possibility of another form of society. And that's his last book, actually, which was published after his death, named Island, where he envisioned a form of society which gets regulated by, from time to time, having access to a very powerful ritual. Very powerful ritual, which kind of like harmonize everything. It's not very clear because he was subtle, and I think we need to be subtle, especially in such retarded ages, especially retarded in terms of laws against those medicines and so on. But basically, he was subtle enough, but he kind of like mentioned that this ritual was related to a medicine, to an ancient plant. And by connecting to this plant, we're connecting to the spirits of Pachamama, or Mother Earth, of God, in a way. And it's very interesting. Yeah. I'm deeply interested in like new forms of communities, not only again related to medicines and drugs, but for example, you have a very interesting community not far from here, which do not use any products, any medicine, named Damanhood. I guess some of you have heard about it. And so it's very interesting. And I think it's there is so many ways to envision living together now. And as we were talking about earlier on today, there is so much possibilities to explore. We're just not exploring enough. And so I leave you on that. Let's explore a little bit more, please. Because life is a game. And if you get that, you're going to be happy and actually doing the best around you. It's all about basically also trying to vibrate at a good level. So basically, you're not only like destroying yourself by trying to make a revolution happen, you know? I think it's very important, and I think there's a deep sadness, and I see that in my generation and in the younger generation, because people try to change the world, but they are using ancient tools. And I really believe that, actually, you know. We've been marked a lot by May 68, for example, being French, you know, and so on. So really believe still that going in the street, making big protests, shouting, and basically using the social network, especially to shout, to scream against people, is going to make a better world. I do not believe that at all. It is complete idiot ways of behaving. Actually, I would just really recommend you to check the work of Adam Curtis. Adam Curtis, the films of Adam Curtis are extremely important, especially the last one, Hypernormalization, which basically is a 2-hour and 45-minute archival film, which is very brilliant and sort of like decodes the society we live in. And I really mention this because we need such people. help us to understand what we live in and to kind of like get a bit away and use then other paths to change the society, you know. He mentioned this one thing, which is amongst the many things he mentioned in the film, there is one thing which is deeply interesting. Talking about the digital age and how we use social network, he says, actually, angry people click more. It's a very good way to resume it, you know? And that's definitely what the system wants you to do, click more. So think about it, and then then use the social networks in a different way, you know? We have time maybe for a few other questions, maybe 2 or 3?
Sono altre domande?
Yeah.
Ecco.
So Vincent, I'll go straight to English. Is that okay? Or do you prefer Italian?
Yeah, because
Okay.
No, speak to English is going to be easier for me, so don't have to listen, and you can just like translate in Italian for the people who listen.
Okay, so we were speaking this morning about taking risks, right? And I just wanted to, if possible, you to go a bit deeper in the connection between fear of death and taking risks and exploring more, because I think what we were starting talking about this morning was really interesting. I want to hear more, and I think everyone needs to hear more about it.
Taking risk and facing
and fear
death.
of death. So, like, we often justify our actions by the fact that we need to eat.
Okay, cool. But I will try to answer a question, but I will not answer it. Actually, obviously, I'm going to go into another direction.
It's okay.
You know, we were talking earlier today. No, actually, just after you left, we went to. Why did we talk about that?
Because
No. I met. Oh yeah, I met you. Sorry, you're here. Yeah, man. And actually, your friend. Sorry, I forgot your name. But basically, he told me that he was like also a researcher in ancient Greek. And then I don't know how, but basically we ended up talking about something that I realized. Someone told me about that recently. I don't remember. I don't know how I found out about it. But basically, in the ancient Greek mythology, which is obviously at the base of this Western world in general. It's very interesting. We have actually, you might know that there is a river that you cross when you die, which is the Styx. But actually there is also this other river, the Lete, that you cross when you get reborn. The Lete is actually the river which is going to make you forget all your memories. So when you get born, you don't have any memories. So it's very interesting ways to kind of like talk about reincarnation. When we always think that reincarnation is kind of like belongs to the Eastern philosophies, Buddhism, Hinduism, and so on. Actually, deep in our society, there is the idea of reincarnation as well, or the idea of the soul. That's what I'm talking about. Talking about the idea of the soul, if you read Descartes, you can read him only on the Cartesian, like, you know, way that basically all our society has been like sort of like, you know, pumping on that stuff. But actually there is another aspect of Descartes that we forget, is that Descartes used to say that the pineal gland, which is that incredible element we have in our brain, which is very poorly studied, the pineal gland is the seat of the soul. And he knew about that because actually the pharaohs knew also about that. If you look at the Eye of Horus, which is a very important, basically, gateway to other levels of consciousness, that's what it represents, if I'm not mistaken, and sort of like reducing it like that in the hieroglyphic language, sort of symbolistic language. Actually, the Eye of Horus is the exact drawing of the pineal gland as well. It's very stunning, this. And actually, to go a little bit deeper in that, and actually to kind of like also wrap it up on that, Plato in the Republic gives the first, for the first time, talks about, and it's the first time in history that basically we have a near-death experience story being told. And I'm not kidding, it's the myth of R, the Pamphilian, something like that. The myth of R, E-R, is actually the story of someone who comes back from the death, which basically goes to that near-death experience and comes back. What's very interesting, if you look at the way it's described in Plato's Republic, and the way that basically it's been studied, near-death experiences have been studied in the 60s, 70s especially, it's the same thing. They correspond completely. People have basically the same visions, people have the same testimonies about it. And actually to go even deeper, what's interesting is that when people start to put in parallel the near-death experiences and the psychedelic experience. They're the same as well. People have the same stories, they share, and so on and so on. So it's very interesting in that, in a way, even in our culture, in our Western Europe form of culture, we did have that at some point. And that has been forgotten, hidden, put on the side. We know then that the Greek mysteries, actually, that Plato was part of, the mysteries of Eleusis, or maybe other names, were basically an Hellenistic type of circle that people were going there to take something. They were taking something. They were taking what? A sort of like mushroom, definitely a psychoactive thing. It's been recent scientific studies in the past 20 years have been showing that. It's amazing. And it's totally like under the radar. We don't talk about that. It's fantastic. This is very, very interesting because it really concerns our reality and the way we relate to our reality. After churches have been erected and things got into a weird way. But it's interesting because what's the name of the church we went to today? San Lorenzo. Wow. It's incredible. There's all the symbolistic thing. And I asked the guy who was there, oh, can you tell me about this esoteric thing? He's like, no, it's nothing esoteric. And then he told me about 20 minutes about esotericism, actually. He was like, oh no, actually, in the end, he was like, yeah, it's quite esoteric. Of course, it's all there under our eyes. It's amazing. It's very beautiful. So basically, just if we all research a little bit more and also do our own experiences, do our own researches, because we have this incredible ability to we do have an incredible access to knowledge, even though it's getting very, we don't educate people to use those tools, but really use those tools well, and you will see it's amazing. We are building slowly a new form of consciousness, and I truly believe in that. We just have to be better at it. We take a last question? No?
The real last, because
really?
We are exactly on the last minute. There is the last question. Ultima domanda. Qualche coraggioso. Okay.
In any case, I will be around, and I'm going to have a drink with you just next door. Okay?
Yeah, I close with the last question. We wanted to ask you about, because we ended up before saying that we all have a responsibility in that society and in this digital society, because actually the reality we are living is actually the image of the reality we are actually trying to communicate, and we try to make the people or they are trying to convince us on. Mm-hmm. So you already said that, but I wanted to deepen a little bit the argument. Apart from the artist, role that, as you said, has failed and has to reconquer anymore kind of role, what it can actually be the role of everyone of us to make it better in a society that seems to have lost completely any kind of value of empathy or solidarity or anything. So how us as users, actually, or users of a digital tool, what is our responsibility and what we can do actually to make it better, in our society?
I cannot answer this now, because especially I don't have the keys, and I do not think there's one key. I mean, there's many keys. There's many experiences to be made, and that's really what I mean. It's like we have to realize that, based on the fact that there is as many realities as people living on this planet, based on the fact that basically many people, and actually a large percentage of the people, have access to those tools, we have as many paths as possible to explore, as long as we take the time to explore them independently through our own experiences, by being extremely curious, by being also extremely open to the others. And that's, come on, if I'm talking about open source culture, it's also because I think that we have to leave the door open at some point, We have to let the things circulate. We have to get it out of our comfort zone. We have to fucking get out of our comfort zone. We live in a very comfortable lifestyle. And I live in a very comfortable lifestyle as well. I'm not, of course. I'm just trying as well to kind of think about how do I do it in another way. You might, shit, that's too loud. That was a terrible documentary a few years ago with Leonardo DiCaprio going around the planet looking for solutions. I don't know if you've seen that. It's horrible. And I mean, the guy is an idiot, I'm sorry. But like, and basically he goes ask many people about solutions. And at some point, he's like, in India, with, I forgot her name, she's such a powerful woman. And basically she start to talk, you know, oh yeah, the world is not going okay, huh? What could we do? And basically, and she goes like, you're fucking American, you fucked it all. You give us like this idea of a lifestyle that we cannot all have. You have to change your lifestyle to show the example. And that's so true. And then he goes like, I don't think that's possible. Of course that's possible. There's no other way. There's no other way. We have to fucking reduce something at some point. We have to reduce the use of energy we have as well. We have to basically change the way we relate to stuff. We have to stop possessing at some point. We are not owners of anything. Stop fucking believing in that. It's stupid. It's like we don't own anything. We belong to the planet and basically change the way you live on an everyday basis. It's just all those tiny details, you know? It's a lot of like, yeah, it's demanding. Fuck yeah. We have to, at some point, we have to face that, you know? It's demanding and it might take a long time, unfortunately. Well, you want things to kind of like switch like that, you know? Magic, ping! And now it's all okay. No, we have all the solutions, and there's so many obstacles, yeah. But if we all work together, and actually if we all explore on our sides, we might join and get better ideas. We have to get out of our specialities as well. You know, and I'm like, why do those people do not communicate enough? Why they do not know about? So that's what I'm trying to do here. In a sort of like slowing out referencing and stuff like that. Because I hope that some of you took notes and fucking are going to explore and discover new stuff. It's like, this is very important. You know, it's like we have to open as much as possible. That's the only way to go. And a lot of people sort of like criticize me for like publishing everything online for free and saying like, oh, but fuck, you know, that's you're. What about all these artists? How are they gonna live? Mon ami, we have to change the way we live. This is the way it goes, you know. We have to really update now. And so I just don't have an answer. I just hope to give you the energy to do it. And then, you know, then we can share ideas together. And again, you know, I mean, if you have any questions, for example, I answer all my emails. Yes, I do that. It takes me a lot of time. It's very demanding, but I do it. And I love to keep in touch with people. And that's the way I work. That's the way I make projects. Sometimes people ask me, but how do you make so many films? I answer all my emails. That's the way I made all those films, actually.
That's how also it happened this conference. Otherwise, exactly. You know, because you answer my emails. So it was anyway an answer, because I think you answer on many points of what I asked. So okay, first of all, thank you for coming here. Thank you for this conference, for everything. Thank you for coming.
Thanks to you. Thanks to all of you, actually. Thanks to all these wonderful people making this happen. And I have so many things. Grazie mille.
Thank you very much. Vincent Moon.